views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
The following audio is via a Skype call.
What might be in the way of you reaching and living your soul's divine purpose? Have you ever wondered if there's a way to heal the deep, hidden, inner issues, wounds, beliefs, and traumas? The journey into spiritual healing engages people in all areas of their lives to heal themselves and others. You will be engaged by powerful stories of hope, healing, love, and God as the source for real wellness. In this live call-in show, Dr. Jaffe brings testament to how medical spiritual healing and Sufism, together with traditional and complementary medicine, can heal life-threatening disease, chronic illness, and personal issues through understanding and transforming the inner causes and experiences that lock disease in place. Dr. Jaffe takes you on a journey and will show you how to find and heal these inner issues and painful unresolved subconscious wounds. You are listening to Journey into Spiritual Healing Radio with Dr. Jaffe.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Pat, and I am joined here today by Dr. Ibrahim Jaffe joining me here today, and we are getting ready to share with you something that is so important, so relevant to the time we're living in right now. And thanks to Dr. Jaffe's beautiful generosity, all of you out there will receive a free teaching on self-love. All you're going to have to do is text the word beauty to this phone number, 707-755-7511. But more about that, let me tell you a little bit about what the show is about today. Have any of you out there thought about how to discover your inner beauty? And what about the idea of you being able to heal your relationship with yourself? Now listen, Dr. Jaffe is my regular every month, and you're going to hear lots more about this. But whether or not you're looking at the journey into spiritual healing, how it's engaging with ourselves, our lives, or whether your journey is just to get out of your stuckness, this has got to be the place. This is the game changer today, everybody. Today, how to heal self-love. Dr. Jaffe, I'm telling you, this is really a pivotal part of what you do, pivotal part of the journey into spiritual healing. But more importantly, I think we are just clueless about the fact that we just don't love ourselves. What do you think? And welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Pat, and welcome to your audience out there. I'm delighted to be back. And, of course, you're right. This topic of self-esteem and self-love is the game changer in the sense that if you don't have it, inside of yourself, you will end up sabotaging yourself in every way in life, especially in relationships, of course, but particularly in what you're trying to create for yourself. In other words, if you're trying to, have success or put yourself out there in some way, whether it's to find a relationship or a beloved or, to, be an actress or something like that, a healer, and you don't believe in yourself, you'll stumble yourself and you'll never step out. So this healing of self-love and self-esteem is the key game changer to really having success in life, I believe.
Yeah. One of the things, too, that I've heard you talk about now is this idea of how we show up, how we talk to ourselves, how we step out in the world, how we stumble. Let's talk a minute about what unhealthy self-love is in the context of what we're going to talk about today. I don't think many people know that there's such a thing as unhealthy self-love. Tell us what that looks like, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind at all. Well, I think, we have to differentiate false self-love, from unhealthy self-love, and then, of course, there's self-love, and ultimately there's what I call essential love. So there's kind of different aspects of self-love. Unhealthy self-love has to do with essentially negative voices inside of our being that are unconscious, that are speaking to us all the time, creating anxiety, fear, a lack of self-worth, a lack of trust in ourselves. And those unhealthy voices are operating subliminally. And my personal experience as a healer is these are like splinters that actually sit in our consciousness, and they affect us incredibly deeply, but we're unaware of them. And, of course, over long periods of time, they will also lead to disease, which slowly works itself into our body. So unhealthy self-love is loving ourselves through these unhealthy voices that lead us down these bad roads that cause problems within us.
Yeah. You know, a lot of times there are symptoms that show up, Dr. Jaffe, and the symptoms are, let's just talk about negative images or visualizations about ourselves. Some of them are at the surface and we know about them. Others are really buried. Let me give you an example. You know, the idea of low self-esteem, unworthiness. You know, for me, I grew up as a kid, I stuttered. And people think, that can't be true, Pat. Are you kidding me? Look at what you're doing for a living. No. I stuttered. But what happened as I stuttered my way through my teen years is I learned how to listen really, really well. But most of the time, we don't know what the causes of low self-esteem are or unworthiness. Right. I would like to talk about that for a minute and give us some examples, because we have to be able to recognize that we're in that energy in order to change it, I think.
I agree. I think what happens is, you know, if you look at a child, when the child is born, if you could see its heart and its soul, you would see that it's born perfect. In the spiritual reality, it's full of love, it's full of beauty, and it's full of acceptance of itself. Meaning, it's hungry, it cries. It needs something, it cries. It's happy, it smiles. It knows its own being and lives completely and freely in that state of beingness. But what happens is, for different reasons, projections go on to the child. The child is too noisy. The child is too smelly. The child is unable to walk fast enough. The child might appear not to be smart enough. You know, things like this begin to, be projected into the child, and the child begins to question its own reality. It starts to say, well, maybe I'm not this. Maybe I'm not that. Maybe I really am slow. Maybe I'm really not walking too fast. Maybe I haven't learned to spell fast enough. So all these things start to come into the child's mind and heart, and soon the child begins to doubt itself. And these are the roots of the self-esteem problems that happen within all of us, because essentially we are programmed to not believe in ourselves at very early ages, and that leads to a sense of problems with self-esteem that essentially duplicate itself again and again. In other words, if you think that you're not smart, you will act not smart, and of course your grades and things in school will show you're not smart. If you think you are smart and you begin to act from the place of being smart, your grades will demonstrate that, and you'll be on an upward cycle. So these patterns create very, very deep wounding inside of ourselves, which is interesting because it can be changed. It can be changed very easily if we know how to do it and we can find those voices within ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I love about this today is that you and I were talking before the show about the energy of the time we're living in now. And what I want to say to anybody out there right now, this is going to be a live call-in show, because what Dr. Jaffe does so beautifully and so well is he will help you live during this show begin to heal those things. Those of you that have heard him on the show before, you've seen what he has been able to do. This is his life's work. This is what he has been called to do. For many of you, if you are thinking today, I don't feel good about myself, I don't feel good about my divorce. I don't feel good about my job. I don't feel good about my pay. I don't feel good about my relationship. Anything that you can tap into to say, I don't feel good, ... Let's have you reach out today and let's get you some help from a master. 1-800-930-2819. 1-800-930-2819. Dr. Jaffe, I want to talk about something real simple for a minute.
Okay.
Listen, you say to somebody, you know what? Go to your boss and say to your boss, I really want a raise.
Yep.
And to you, you're thinking, what's the problem with that?
Yep.
Go to your boss or go to your spouse and just say to your spouse, hey, by the way, stop doing that. That is really annoying to me. It takes me 5 hours to clean up after you. Now, I'm not saying to say it like that. But in the end, Dr. Jaffe, the point is we can't do it. We don't have what it takes because we don't really have within us that love that you're talking about to move forward and say to your boss, you know what, I've been here 20 years. Do you think I can get a couple of buck raise?
Amazing, huh?
I know.
Yeah.
And if we're not able to do that, what are we going to do when we're in front of a doctor? And I've been at this place and we hear a diagnosis and the diagnosis we hear is so scary and we can't muster up the energy. We can't muster up the strength or the courage to then ask this doctor seriously important questions. But this is how you help people, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a great point, Dr. Pat. I think, these statements are very real. If we don't have what I call core essential love in ourselves, which really means valuing our deepest being, our deepest hearts, our deepest souls, then somewhere that gets broken inside of us early on, and we always doubt ourselves, just like this state of doubt that lives deep inside of our heart and our soul. And the experience of that is we don't believe in ourselves, we don't trust ourselves, we don't really find the voice to express ourselves, and even if we found it, we wouldn't value it because we would believe it isn't right. So from that place, depending on how deeply we're traumatized or hurt, we don't really create our lives because we can't really stand for ourselves, and we don't really stand for our beliefs. For example, one of my clients who was just diagnosed with breast cancer, and she had a fairly large nodule in her axilla on her left breast. And we sat and we talked, and of course the doctor said, no, you need to go right in, you got to get this taken out, surgery immediately. Now, she went into this core essential place, which we had worked on and she had developed in herself, and she said, I know in my heart that I can heal this. I know I can do it. And I said, well, do you want to do chemoradiation? She said, no. I said, surgery? No. I said, well, what do you want to do? She said, I'm going to use alternative methods, meaning herbs and detoxing, acupuncture, and I'm going to work on the spiritual issues because I know, I believe in my core essential self that I can heal this. I believe in myself. Well, she worked on it for only 4 weeks, and after the fourth week, her tumor had shrunk, I would say, almost to at least 50 or 60% smaller than it had. And this was, just in the past 4 or 5 weeks. But she shrunk it down. And again, if you look at it deeply, it came from her deep, essential core love of her own being, that she knew that she could heal this because she believed in who she was. This is what we have to bring forward in our lives, both, in relationships, if we love somebody but we don't believe that we're valuable enough to have real love, we're not only going to find a mate who will not love us, but if we have a mate that will love us, we won't be able to connect to that love because we'll literally block it in certain ways. So this is why the core essential love is so important.
Well, we obviously are really striking a chord with our listeners. And I would like to, Benny, skip the break because we have one of our fabulous listeners calling in. Dr. Jaffe, what do you think? Are we ready to take a call?
Yep, let's go.
All right, Mr. Benny, who do we have?
Sonia is going to start things off, calling in from Georgia. Hello, Sonia.
Hello, Dr. Jaffe, Dr. Pat. How are you?
Awesome. Thank you for calling in. We're ready to help you today. What can we do?
Thank you. Dr. Jaffe, I just wanted to ask you a question about this path that I'm on, and I know I'm capable of so much, and it's just not getting out there. It's the constant self-doubt. It's the constant, I hear the voices, but I just try to power on. I'm not living my full potential.
Yeah, these are great questions, Sonia. I mean, if again, I'm somebody who lives with people's souls because that's the work I do. You have a beautiful soul. When I feel your soul, it's just full of love and full of light and full of radiance. But if you feel yourself, there's a disconnect between your soul and your experience of who you are. So, and then you're doing what most people do, which is, I believe, you're compensating for that by strengthening your outer. I'm going to go out, I'm going to achieve, you're probably taking courses on how to produce and make things happen. But deep in your being, if you feel yourself, that disconnect lives inside. And that, I think, is the core problem. Can you relate to what I'm saying?
Yes, I've been trying to get to the disconnect by, like you said, endless courses, classes, healing, every method, modality, learning them myself. But there's something that, you have mentioned where the light just came in, and it prompted me to call in today because I'm asking God to let that light in so I can shine.
All right. Well, if you go very, very deep inside yourself, and you see, this is the thing, you have to going into these deeper places are often veiled. In other words, that we throw blankets over them because it's too painful to look at. And this is where we have to kind of open them up. Now, I don't know if we can do that on the air with everybody listening, but we'll try. If you go very, 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 very deep in yourself and you just let go, what is the image that comes up in your mind or your heart about why you're not having success?
Usually, and I'll tell you right away, it's usually a scary image of someone, and I don't know if it came from a cartoon or deep, soul life. I'm not even sure if I'm saying this properly, but it's usually like this scary image of a person, like it's always something trying to scare me. Even when I go into meditation, I see this image and I try to get past it, but it's the fear of this being or, just not letting me get to the next level maybe. And I don't know if, again, that's all I could think of right now.
Okay. All right. So this is perfect. In Sufism, we say there are three aspects of self. There's the self, and there's God, but then there's what we call shaitan, or darkness. So there's three basic internal aspects of being, and they relate to each other. They're always moving around each other. Now, what you're describing is, in Sufism, what we would call classically shaitan. Shaitan is, people will see it as exactly what you're saying, a person or a being who's scary, who somehow deep in yourself is controlling your reality. You're frightened of it. It has power over you, and it does scare you. And so every time you try to step out, you hit that place, get frightened by it, and turn away. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally.
Okay, so the first step, by the way, of traditional walking this way is actually finding exactly what you just isolated, which is that aspect, facing it and discharging it. And there's ways to do that. And the way you basically do it is you bring the light of God into that being, and that being will step back and away from you and allow you to expand into your light.
Okay.
That makes sense?
I think it does, but I still feel like I need more help on this, so I'm going to get with you and try to go a little bit deeper to transmute this. Mm-hmm. I still don't feel like I can do it, and that's also another classic example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it takes a little time. I mean, in truth, it's a combination of these shaitans or little devils that they exist. People don't realize it, but they're there. They're there hidden. But what people don't understand is they really don't have any power over us unless we give them power over us. And, of course, the other side of it is the shadow, which is our own ego self, which, is our own, sort of inclinations towards negativity that live inside of us. And we have to learn to transmute those places in ourselves, which you're aware of. But I would say up to now you haven't had the tools in this case meaning the divine light, the divine names, the attributes, the things that would actually discharge this thing out of you. And once it discharges, you'll see the light comes in, and there's so much strength and so much light and so much beauty that it's like you're unstoppable. You're being moved forward in life from that place, and there you start to create things that are right for yourself.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for calling in. And yes, Dr. Jaffe, now, would you mind telling folks the best way they can schedule time with you? Is there a phone number? Certainly there is a website. Please give folks that information. Yeah,
you can go to my website, drjaffemd.com, drjaffemd.com, or you can call my telephone number, 888-2, Dr. Jaffe, D-R-J-A-F-F-E. And both of those you can schedule sessions or, attend either one of the healing courses coming up, the Foundations course is starting shortly, or you can do the self-love course, which is really what Dr. Pat and I are talking about, which is finding this place and healing it inside. Yeah. And that brings us to talking, Dr. Jaffe, about healthy self-love. Now, previously we were talking about, what is unhealthy self-love, but there is a healthy self-love. And people that experience healthy self-love, you could see it. They radiate from the inside out. And yet at the same time, if you said to somebody, can you please describe this for yourself? They may not have all the words, but I know you do. What is healthy self-love? I think people have a misconception. There is healthy self-love where essentially we love ourselves. And really another way of saying that is we really accept and value our feelings, and we accept our expression of those feelings, and we essentially, hold it with love. So the first step of healthy self-love is really, in a way, learning to know our feelings, accept our feelings, and express our feelings with value. But in my book, I don't think that's enough. I think there's something much deeper. And I call that the holy jewel, which is that if you look deep inside of yourself, there is a place in your heart that is a jewel of light. Like if we talk about Sonia, who was just on the call, she's aware of it. She's looking actively to find it. She knows it. She feels it, and she touches it in herself, but she hasn't been able to actualize it yet. If you look deep inside of people, there is a very, very deep place inside where this jewel radiates with light. Now, what that jewel really is the heart of the soul. It's the person's soul, and inside the soul it does have a heart, and the heart of the soul is the holy jewel of the person. Now, when you reach this holy jewel in yourself, you will have an experience of self-love and self-valuing that will transcend anything you've known before. And from that place, you will be able to create the things in life that you want. You will say, I am worthy of a relationship because I value who I am, and you will radiate that out, and you will then connect to people who will recognize who you are. Or you'll say, I'm ready to be an actress or a singer. I value my jewel. I value what I have, and I'm going to radiate that out. One of my clients recently, who is a fairly well-known singer, an actress, was, working on finding this holy jewel in herself. Now, she was on Broadway, and she was singing and dancing and in some of the major plays there, and she was having trouble with this part of herself. She couldn't find it. So we worked, and she cleared some of these places that we talked about, and all of a sudden she hit this holy jewel. She hit this core essential self. The night she hit that, she went out on Broadway, and she did what she did, which was her act. She said she couldn't believe it. She said, I sang from the place of this holy jewel. She said it was so powerful that the entire place went silent and then erupted into standing ovation like she had never experienced in her whole life. It broke the place wide open, and she said it was like a life-changing moment where her whole reality shifted. From that time, things have now moved forward very, very quickly, and she's being elevated more and more and more into higher levels of recognition, which, again, just out of confidentiality, I can't really talk about who this is.
Right.
But it's been happening.
Wow. This is really, for people listening, this is really how we open up and know that there are things that we can do, and we can do them now to change our lives and change our lives for the better. We're going to take a short break. Dr. Jaffe is in the house for those of you just tuning in. And when we come back, I want to talk about why do this? What are the benefits of healthy self-love? You just heard an example. We're going to talk about this more. Maybe you're thinking, I don't know, I don't have something great going on in my life. I'm going to tell you that some days in my personal journey, it was hard just getting up and getting out of bed. And here's what I want to say to all of you. It begins with self-love and the self-love impact and what it has on everybody else in our lives. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Dr. Ibrahim Jaffe and me, Dr. Pat. We'll be right back.
Have you ever wondered if there's a way to heal the deep, hidden inner issues, wounds, beliefs, and traumas? The journey into spiritual healing engages people in all areas of their lives to heal themselves and others. Tune in each month on Transformation Talk Radio as Dr. Jaffe brings conversations of healing of body, mind, and spirit as he merges the excellence of traditional medicine with the beauty of spiritual healing. For more information about Dr. Jaffe, this show, and his work, visit drjaffemd.com.
Are you searching? Looking for a sign? A message you need to hear? From the great unknown, from the most mysterious place that is the most familiar to your soul in the depths of who you are. The universe put someone here to talk to, someone God gave a blessing to, that you may find insight with. TheAngelLady.net. 1-800-323-1790. 1-800-323-1790.
Defining success and putting minds to work. With the Higher Learners Career and Leadership Series, Rudy Racine will help you craft your personal definition of success, offering support and guidance as you move forward towards your goals. Take the lead. With the right mix of focus and motivation, anything can be achieved. Tune in every first and third Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 Eastern, and for more information on Rudy Racine and Higher Learners, visit Rudy's site at higherlearners.com. That's HIRE learners.com.
Be you plus live your purpose equals joy. That's the motto of Unstuck Joy with Vicki Todd. Vicki believes you were born with gifts that are meant to make the world brighter. Each show will feature an art visioning journal prompt to help you create your way to soul clarity. If you're ready to get unstuck and create more joy, this show is for you.
Tune in the first and third Tuesday at 3 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. For more information, visit VickiWorldArt.com.
The Janice Underwood Show, helping you create the life you want, not the life you tolerate. Tune in each Monday, 9 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio as Janice delves into the life creator system and the next step in your spiritual evolution. Janice Underwood is gifted at helping spiritually minded people shift their mindsets to unleash the creator within. Our souls wish to wake us up. Those of us listening hear the call. Do you? For more information, visit JaniceUnderwood.com.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show, Talk Radio to Thrive By. I am so thrilled to be talking to all of you. We have got talk radio for all of us. Are you ready and willing and able to accept all of the abundance you can muster up in your life? Yeah! Check us out, thedrpatshow.com, transformationtalkradio.com, transformationradio.fm. Oh my goodness.
She gave me love, 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 love,
Wow. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's so great to have all of you tuning us in and turning us on. As I said before, Dr. Jaffe is joining us here today as the host of Journey into Spiritual Healing, Embracing Divine Presence, Unity, and Love. Today, we're talking about discover your inner beauty through healing your relationship with yourself. Before we talk about the benefits of this, I know that you are on a mission, and one of the things you're doing is you've put together a course, Secrets of Self-Love, Discover Your Inner Beauty Through Healing Your Relationship with Yourself. Would you mind, first of all, telling us a little bit about this, and then how can people register, sign up, find out more?
Okay. Well, this course, will begin on the 28th of March. We have a free call, and you can, it's actually the first part of the call, so you can come into that if you want. Again, if you text, to the beauty, if you text the word beauty, it doesn't matter, lowercase, uppercase, to 707-755-7511, we will, send you something for your email, send that to us, and then we'll contact you about that free call. Discovering your inner beauty is the first step of what I believe making a major change in your life. And that means that everything inside yourself is going to be moving from that deep heart and that deep love that's connected. In other words, like Sonia was saying, that there's a deep place in herself that she hasn't been able to get to yet because in her case this thing was, kind of affecting her. We're going to teach you how to reach and find that place, to live in that place, value that place, and create your life from that place. So that's the first step. Of course, the second step will be learning about how we sabotage ourselves. And those steps are these voices that we just spoke about. It can be these little voices that come in, and they stop us subconsciously from being able to recognize that place in ourselves. So we're going to teach you how to find and recognize those places and begin the process of discharging them or transmuting them in such a way that we can come back to that real place. Now, sometimes people are going to find that when they go inside themselves, they're going to hit really, really deep places of suffering, trauma, places where they've been damaged and hurt. It takes, fortitude and strength and support to face those places in yourself. But if you do that and you transmute it, it is literally miraculous in how fast your lives can change for the better. So we'll be teaching that, and this course will essentially be about those pieces. How do we find the holy jewel? How do we find the saboteurs, these voices? How do we discharge them? And finally, how do we begin to live a life with that presence in our being? How do we move forward with it? And I think that will be very, very supportive for all of us. I know that everyone I know, and it doesn't matter who they are, has places that these places exist within ourselves. So we all need to face them and work with them so that we can have real peace.
What then, we are looking forward to is what we're about to talk about now. And that is, what are the benefits? What is it about, some of us that have said yes to this, that put our foot in the water? What is it about that engaged us to want more? Because in the end, our lives change and we can see the progression. So there are some benefits to this from a very conscious, subconscious, and soul level. I'd love to hear from you what you've seen and what some of the benefits are and how they impact relationships.
Well, I think, first of all, I would say that most people feel a subtle sense of disconnection in their life. It's something deep inside of us. We feel like we don't belong, life isn't working, we're doing this, that, and the other thing. For example, one of my clients, a very, very successful man, I couldn't have more success in the outer life, than, the dreams that most people he has. But deep in his being, there was that, sort of disconnection in his own being. Now, once that connection was returned, all of a sudden, it was like, literally in a matter of just weeks, his life turned, completely around. around. He has said to me, I have spent, hundreds of thousands of dollars on trying to heal myself and not had success. I lost 6-7 years of work, and, he was telling me, I don't tell you how many millions of dollars that was for him. And he said, you know what, in 2 sessions, this whole thing changed around. So, really what happened is he reconnected to this divine self and to the divine light, and he shifted that place in himself where that connection became strong again. So that's the first benefit, is we start to function correctly, we start to sleep better, anxiety disappears, we start to feel good inside, you start to get your health back, your strength back, your energy back, you start to move forward, your thinking will clear up, you'll start to literally see better. I know in my case, I had flown into Jerusalem, and I had my retina got broken, and I had to go into surgery. It was a kind of something from the pressure of the plane, apparently. And the sight wasn't quite right. And when I got out of it, it was very, very bad, and I was dealing with that. And then, through just the same process that I'm teaching you every day, just working on things and clearing them, I noticed that the sight became better and better and better. And I went in and to get rechecked, and the doctors couldn't believe it. They were like, "Oh my God, how did you do this? You're 50% better in how you see."
Wow, and they don't believe it. I mean, it's kind of interesting to really be able to demonstrate this is where we are, and this is what our experiences is, and this is for real. Are you finding, Dr. Jaffe, that physicians now are becoming more and more open to what they're seeing? Because we're starting to see some shifts and changes. Some people call them miracles, right?
Yeah. I'm finding that. I think that we are on an awakening level of consciousness, and it is permeating into medicine. We're seeing complementary medicine, alternative medicine, all that stuff. And, recently, one of the doctors that we had worked with down in Florida at Mount Sinai Hospital, we just spoke with him, and we were, deciding whether we wanted to work in that area or not. And he said, please, 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 come back to us. He's an oncologist. He said, our patients need to get to the roots of their trauma, the roots of their stresses, and why they're sick. And this work is so, so important. So please come back to our hospital. And I think that for me really exemplified the shift that's happening in medicine today.
Yeah, and it really is exciting from a lot of different perspectives, because I think that people are really coming forward. And what they're doing is they're willing to explore alternative questions for themselves, alternative questions, in their lives, different ways things showing up. I want to talk for a little bit about anger and resentment. And the reason I want to talk about it is because, we're looking at people that are just boiling on the inside. Sometimes, of course, it's expressed on the outside, but not always. And they're just fuming and can't really pinpoint what they're fuming about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, as a healer, a physician, there's a lot of diseases that end with itis, colitis, things like that. If you have an itis, you have anger issues, in my experience. And anger is, I believe, anger and fear are the two major emotions that cause disease in people. So if you have, Dr. Pat, as you're talking about, if people have rage and resentment and they're not dealing with it, it's going to work its way into some part of the body where it's going to cause inflammation and eventually disease.
Yeah.
So, I agree with you. I think that, the first part of healing, one of the major parts of healing is people, all of us, having to learn to deal with both how to deal with anger when we get angry, but more importantly than that is learning to get to the roots of why we get angry and changing that inside of ourselves.
One of the things I wanted to talk with you about, too, is that, how can people best look and recognize that it's time to heal self-love? What are some of the, let's just call it symptoms or outcomes that show up in people's lives? And then we're also going to talk about how do we go about this healing? What are the process? What are the steps? But clearly there have to be signs, right? Yeah. And we've talked about some of them, but there are others.
Well, I think, the bottom line is if you have a situation in your life that recurs again and again, you have a self-love issue going on. Whether it's, like, for example, a relationship. If you're finding that again and again your relationships don't work, or you're finding again and again that you can't heal your relationship with your husband or your wife or your kids, there's something with self-esteem operating in that situation. Now, it may be that it could be hidden shame. It may be that it's unresolved anger. But again, all those things, shame and anger, all these things are still operating from something deeper, which is that some way we've turned against ourselves. You see, and so if we can find those core places in our being, how did we turn against ourselves? Where is it that we don't value ourselves? Where is it that we're not truthful about our feelings? Where is it that, for example, Hashimoto's, thyroiditis, big epidemic today in the United States and around the world. It's I don't know how many women now have it, particularly.
Yeah.
And if you really look at it, Hashimoto's, we've worked with it and healed it many times now, and it comes down to this. Women have been taught that they're not allowed to speak up and not allowed to speak their truth, so they've learned to close their mouths.
Mm.
Once they start speaking up and they find it, it's amazing. The antibodies disappear, and the thyroid turns on, and the T3 and T4 become normal.
Yeah. Boy, I'll tell you, that is really the micro of what we're seeing in our society right now here in the United States. We're seeing more and more people speak up in many, many ways. And believe it or not, you're right about that. It just so happens that they are women. The Dalai Lama talked about this several years ago when he came to visit here. And he talked about the women of our culture and what we were going to do. And at the time he came, and he talked about women and women leadership, many of the people kind of looked at that and said, well, we're going to really need some kind of makeover here so that women can speak out. Don't you believe, in fact, that is what's happening now at so many levels?
Well, I think we're hitting a tipping point in oppression. Mm-hmm. I think all the oppressed groups, whether it's women or gay or people of different color or things like that, have hit a point where they don't want to be oppressed anymore. They want to come out and speak their truth and be valued for who they are. And I think we're seeing that across the board in just about every oppressed group there is. And I think that's a really good thing. The only thing I want to say about that is, I think we need to learn a little bit from Martin Luther King and from Gandhi and people like that, which is that when we come out with, when we've been oppressed and we come out, usually it comes out with rage and attack. And the rage and attack then causes more problems for the oppressed groups. Now, if people come out with, in a Gandhi way or a Martin Luther King way, where they come out with truth, but they come out peacefully and they come out gently and they come out speaking from the place of compassion and mercy and love, I think that's what actually leads to the most permanent change and brings unity and inclusiveness rather than bringing separation, because it leads to finding the truth. What is the truth? What needs to happen? How does that truth? So I think, for today, as women are really stepping out and standing up for themselves, I am very, very delighted about that. And I think it's long overdue. But at the same time, I just hope that everybody will come out and not forget that if you come out with hatred and rage as a response, you're going to bring hatred and rage back to yourself. Yeah. And if you come out with mercy and love and understanding, you'll bring love and unity back to yourself.
Yeah. I mean, this is part of also what you're planning to teach. So let's talk about that for a minute if we could, and we'll go ahead and skip the break. One of the things for sure is that, we've got a lot of questions from the people that are calling in to the show. And you're going to walk us through how do we make the change. But right now, why don't we go ahead and go to the phones, Mr. Benny, and let's bring Charlene on if we could.
Yeah, Charlene is there. Welcome to the show, Charlene.
Hey, Charlene.
Thank you. Hi, how are you? Good day,
awesome.
doctors.
Hi, Charlene. Welcome.
Hi.
Yes.
Thank you. My question is, when you're dealing with chronic pain, I have chronic nerve pain, and I do affirm good things in my life and things like that, and I do watch my self-talk because I do know that self-talk creates our own individual reality.
Yeah.
It can be challenging. I have fibromyalgia. It can be very challenging some days. I am moving forward the baby steps.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in what you have to offer on that. I have gone to healers. I have gone to Reiki, and because I do have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, from other traumas. So I am willing and open, like I have an open heart.
Yeah, I hear that. I do hear that. Well, PTSD, a lot of that shows up in what you're saying, fibromyalgia and, cases like that. You'll see that very often. So that's not an uncommon scenario. But I think, again, knowing the work that I'm doing, which is a combination of sort of the Sufi spiritual understandings, the energetic shifts of the body, and medicine together, this kind of three-part approach to working. What I found in pain situations is that the energetic aspect is that the person's energy twists in on itself and turns, and literally when it should be expressing outward, it turns in and goes down into the self. It's kind of like an ingrown hair, and that's causing the pain. If you can get that ingrown hair out to stop growing in and express it outward or turn your energy outward, usually the pain disappears. So that's the kind of the secret of the energetic. But the other side of it at a deeper level is, again, what is it that your soul is being asked to learn deep inside, which may be, in this case, about self-valuing and really, valuing who you are, particularly as a spiritual person, and really stepping into appreciating who you are and not letting other people or your parents or anybody tell you that you are not acceptable as who you really are. I think if you get that teaching at a very, very deep level, your fibromyalgia will disappear.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, also, let's make sure, Dr. Jaffe, that people have information about your class that's coming up.
Okay, so let's see here. We have the Self-Love Teleclass, the free call, will be March 28th on Wednesday at 5 to 6:15 p.m. Pacific time. And again, you can go to my website, drjaffemd.com, drjaffemd.com, or you can call the telephone 888-237-5233, 888-237-5233, and speak with Carol, and she can explain it to you. And also, if you're interested in really healing, like in this case where we have fibromyalgia or something like that, we have a free Foundations of Healing course beginning Thursday, March 22nd from 5 to 7. That's Thursday, March 22nd from 5 to 7. Same numbers, 888-237-5233 or 888-2-Dr. Jaffe, or the website, drjaffemd.com. And the Foundations course would be a very good healing course for those of you who may be really looking to understand why you're sick, what's driving your illness, and how to change it. In other words, the sickness didn't just happen. It's in there for a reason. Something happened. And if we can find it and change it, this is where we really get the miracles that happen in people's healing.
Awesome. Thank you. Now, I know we've got a few minutes left, and there are a couple things that are also super important to really talk about. One of them is, some of the steps that you've discovered, and of course that you're going to teach about what can we do? How do we do it? I know that there are these amazing secrets that you're going to share in the self-love class that you're talking about. But clearly today, with our folks calling in, we have a really good sense that folks know that there is a healing that's required. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about those steps, if we could.
Yeah, the steps are actually very simple, in a certain level. It takes some time to learn them, but it's not that hard. The first step is what are we healing with? In other words, what's the light that's used for healing? Having done this for 30 years and studied, pretty much all over the world with healers, have come to the conclusion at the end of the day that the best and the highest light for us to heal from is God's light. I believe that there's nothing higher or pure, and I believe it leads to the highest and best results for people. And that light is divided into two parts. One of them we call the essential light, and one of them are the attributes of that essential light, such as compassion and mercy and wisdom and things like that. So the teaching that we'll be giving you is first, how do you reach that essential light? How do you become connected to it? And how do you receive the help, guidance, and support that it wants to give you? And that can happen. You can learn that very quickly. You can learn that in an evening. And then, of course, it becomes a lifetime of practice, to eventually, receive all the gifts that it wants to give us. It's an incredible life, actually. So the first step is making that connection. The second step, did you want to say something about that?
No, I think that is very key, because it is the beginning point for what you're about to share now.
Yes, exactly. And without that light, it's amazing. In other words, as a healer, before I had that light, I think that I stumbled around a lot. But after that light, it was almost like I had a laser beam of absolute wisdom that would take me into places I never would have gone on my own, just because I wouldn't have found them or seen them or known them. And through finding them with that light, it led me into the second step, which is you have to then open those places inside to find out what those core issues and experiences and traumas are and stressors and things like that, because we all have them. We don't realize how deeply that they are woven inside of us. For example, one man unfortunately had colon cancer, and when he got in there, he actually saw that it was all about rejection by his father when he was a young boy. Now, he was in his 60s, but it had to do with this rejection from his father. The minute he started getting to that core, immediately the pain began to disappear. So you see that by getting to these root inner dimension, what I call the inner dimension of illness or the inner dimension of suffering, and facing them in ourselves, we have then real ongoing healing that will last, I believe, forever, because we're really doing the deeper work. So the step number 2 is find that in yourself, face that in yourself, and then, of course, the third and final step is simply bring the two together. Bring the light of God and these essential names, such as compassion, mercy, into the healing, these deep interdimensional issues of yourself, this inner dimension of who you are, and let the light of God wash away and purify what's in you and replace it with the divine attributes. So anger gets changed into compassion. Separation gets changed into mercy. Fear gets changed into love. And these type of things. So as you replace them, as you wash them away, we say you purify them and you beautify them with the divine attributes. It is the beautification with the divine attribute which is the healing. That when that happens, that's when you see the healing occur across the board. So the steps are, how do we make that happen? How do we get that divine attribute to beautify after we've purified out these places, I call them turbidities, these places of cloudiness within ourselves.
Yeah, wow. Dr. Jaffe, I know as somebody that's been through pretty much everything you've talked about today, thank you so much for today. I have one last question. What's your personal message, and what would you like to leave us with?
Well, thank you for that question, Dr. Pat. I think the bottom line is that if we learn to live in the presence of this essential light, that it so radically transforms our life and everybody else's life around us that we have the real success and love and peace and beauty in our lives that all of us are seeking. Then we have the real richness in our lives that everybody is trying to find. So I invite people to join me on that journey.
You've been listening to Journey into Spiritual Healing Radio with Dr. Jaffe. Tune in each month on Transformation Talk Radio as Dr. Jaffe will help you remove the veil of illness and unleash the ancient wisdom of healing as he merges the excellence of traditional medicine with the beauty of spiritual healing. If you've missed any part of this episode or want to find out more about Dr. Jaffe, visit his website, drjaffemd.com.
The preceding audio was via a Skype call.